Welcome to Dimensional Shift, where we explore and actively deprogram ourselves, seek the truth of reality through expanding our perceptions, and focus on full remembrance of our true selves. As we begin to connect to our true selves, we will also see the truth of this illusory reality and the way it controls us through our manipulated perceptions. As soon as we fully remember our true selves, we will also see the enemy for what it is and how to rebalance the system by freeing ourselves and assisting others to do the same, creating a domino effect into the evolution of human consciousness. I had this really strange experience the other night. I was standing at the bottom of our stairs, waiting for my son to come down to do a chore I'd asked him to do. As I waited, I kind of, leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. I was tired, it was late. I sensed my son coming down the steps, but I didn't sense the small plastic ball that he threw at my face until it hit me. Now, in retrospect, the ball hitting my face didn't hurt at all, but for some reason, it triggered a PTSD episode, which is not something that I normally have. I don't have PTSD in general, but for some reason this put me on a full-on meltdown, crying, sobbing, terrified, shaking, all the ugly things that are associated with PTSD episode. And it took me several minutes to collect myself enough to realize that the ball hitting my face had triggered something from another life, from a galactic life that was happening somewhere else. I'm not sure if it was past, maybe future, but definitely another galactic life out there. And this raised the question for me to ask, can we have traumatic episodes, PTSD episodes, from things that we've never experienced on this planet in this life? The trauma that I've experienced in another avatar, in another galaxy, on another planet, is linked to me where I am now through quantum entanglement. And so that trauma is resting in my DNA here. And so events like that can trigger episodes because of the similarities of the triggers. So for example, in this scenario, the images that I got when I was triggered was that I had been shot at with some kind of silver metal ball and had hit me in the face and it had killed me. It was during some kind of battle. Just having that instant energy of that I'm about to die and the energy of it's happening again and not understanding why it's happening here when it's happening there. It really was very hard to understand what was going on. So once I got calmed down and was able to stop and think about the visions I had seen and how the seemingly random event that caused this was actually placed there so that I would be able to get the information that I needed, I meditated on the information that I received and connected with some new guides. And it was really quite interesting to discover that these kinds of experiences have a purpose. For me, this experience highlighted the fact that there are active wars going on elsewhere, probably aren't even part of the Great Galactic Wars, but that there are parts of us that are actively fighting. And so when days we have extra fatigue or are extra grouchy or extra depressed, it's possible that our other avatars are going through things or experiencing things that we're picking up on and we don't even realize it. And so if we think of that as a parallel life, a life that's going on at the same time this life is going on, we can talk about trauma coming forward from a past life. The Akashic records are full of all of our past histories and mostly our trauma and things that need to be healed. All of those things come forward for us to heal in every lifetime, and we try and get as much healed as we can every life. Sometimes this trauma can still affect us if we're not careful. We have to be aware of it so that it doesn't affect us negatively. It can present itself, but if we don't take care of it right away, it can slither its way into our lives and it becomes part of this life again too, and that reinforces it, allowing it to move forward into the next life to be healed. Trauma is a slippery thing, and you have to be on top of healing it. You have to be aware of it and accepting of it and keenly watch it so that it doesn't get away from you, because it can bury you quickly if you're not careful. For example, a lot of women in the spiritual community today have what's called the witch wound. The witch wound is the trauma that women endured during the witch hunts in Europe and in America. And a lot of women are sensitive about fire and hanging, and they're sensitive about being pointed out and being singled out. And this is especially frightening if you have grown up in a religious background and are starting on your own spiritual path. It's a big wound that you have to heal before you really get to move on. And that all comes from our past lives of being persecuted as female who wanted to live their spiritual lives or were just the wrong people at the wrong time. We can also talk about trauma from future lives, which is kind of a strange thing to say, but in a way, if you think about it, trauma in our future life often reverberates backwards, like a drum, and it can affect us in this life if we're not careful. Sometimes we see these as chaotic events where things just happen and we don't know why they happen. Why are such bad things happening to me? And oftentimes it's trauma coming from the future, and it's just reverberating out until it's affecting you here and now. And that kind of trauma is also tricky to heal because you're coming at it from the outside rather than healing it from the inside. For example, you could have trauma related to money that's coming from the future. Let's say that your future self has had a big bankruptcy or has been robbed and everything was taken away, or they ended up in some kind of parallel world, debtor's prison. Everything was taken away and they lost everything. That trauma can reverberate backwards to you and come up with random, you forgot to pay this bill, and oh no, your car broke down and you have a big bill from that, and someone you loaned money to refuses to pay you back, things like that. Like those kinds of money things that feel chaotic and random are generally kinds of traumas coming back. The important thing to remember is that you can heal that future trauma by working on your stuff now. It just takes a little more concentrated effort because you're doing it from the outside going in. So on a similar note, we can talk about empathic PTSD, where you're experiencing PTSD, but it's not yours. It's someone else's. You're filtering it for somebody or carrying it for them. Sometimes this can be really confusing too because you don't know the source, or maybe you know the source, but you don't recognize it as yours. So being very aware of who and what is in your field is really important. If you discover that you're dealing with emotions that aren't yours, you can always release them and return them to sender with consciousness. It's a very easy, simple, instantaneous meditation you can do where you just let your aura expand for a second, let all of that energy go, and return it to sender with consciousness. Just use that thought. Generally, that will sum up any kind of bad energy you've been experiencing and will help you reset your own energy. So what it comes down to is this idea of quantum entanglement, where any quantum particle that comes in contact with another trades data with the other, and they're forever intrinsically connected. And that means that no matter how far away they are, across space, time, dimensions, realities, possibilities, infinity, no matter how far apart they are or how different they are, they're always connected and they can always share data. This is the speed of consciousness. This is how we connect to each other across the universe, how we connect to our guides, how we connect to our higher selves, how we connect to each other telepathically. It all has to do with quantum entanglement. And sometimes that quantum entanglement means that we get memories and trauma shared with us that we may prefer not to have. But if we accept it and are aware of it and heal it, we can learn from it and grow from it. If you found this episode helpful or insightful, please share it with a friend and leave a review or comment. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I host twice weekly open discussions on the podcast topic on our Discord server. If you'd like to join, head to dimensionalshifter.com/Discord. If you're on Reddit, come join the subreddit r/dimensional shifters or send me a DM. My username is Dimensional Shifter. Keep deprogramming, keep connecting, keep listening to your intuition. This is it. This is what we've been searching for our whole lives. Connection to our true selves.